Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Arthur Ashe. DC Tribe Josh Thomas. If you haven't already, check out thedozone.com for productivity tips, accountability, and just a bunch of great human beings looking to get more stuff done. Once again, that's thedozone.com. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star rating, give us a review, and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. So we're going to talk today with our guest, Steven Sachs. Steven has worked for 30 years in the fashion industry and created a brand that was being sold in over 30 countries, generating 30 million pounds a year in revenue before getting acquired. Wow. His furniture business racked up millions of pounds of debt, and he had no idea how to dig his way out. Wanting to save others from experiencing what he went through, he founded Funding Nav that helps business owners who have more ambition than cash. And to date, they have provided in excess of 100 million pounds for hundreds of businesses. That's amazing. I'm so happy to have you here. Steven, welcome to the Do Zone. Say what's up to the tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Thanks, Josh. What's up to the tribe? Actually, whether most people think of it or not, I think that maybe it's not a priority. But yesterday was my birthday, and I was 57 years old. And for a birthday challenge, I challenged my PT. Rather than him training me, I would train him. And he's 25 years of age. So I put together this really, really tough workout. And at the end of it, he admitted that now I'm fitter than him. And that's largely because I do large amounts of cycling and I'm playing tennis as well as doing the stuff in the gym with him. And honestly, I think that the key to getting stuff done is to maintain a really high level of fitness.
Maintain a really high level of fitness.
Physical fitness. Yeah, absolutely.
It's been said before that when you see somebody that is in really great shape, they're very fit. That's not something you can buy. That's not something you can cut corners and achieve. That's not something that you can, I guess you can go and pay for a bunch of surgeries or whatever. But for the most part, when you see somebody that's very well formed and they're in good shape and they're the lean and they're strong, it's because they did the work.
That's correct. So I've got some rules which I apply to my life, which on the face of it look like they're unproductive, but in reality they're super productive. One of them is, and maybe this is easier for me in the United Kingdom than it is for you in the United States. Basically, I don't use a car. I use a bicycle. And I've got a rule. I have to cycle at least 100 miles every week. So if I go to business meetings, I go on my bicycle. And sometimes I go 30 miles to a business meeting and 30 miles back. So that's 60 miles all the way around. Whilst on the face of it, that would seem a bit stupid and like a stupid use of time. In reality, I'm saving time by not going to the gym. I'm boosting my my thinking ability. I'm kind of like blasting myself with oxygen. When I do arrive, I'm kind of like really buzzing. So I just feel that that's kind of just a massive key. And now with technology, I can use the phone on the bike if I want to. I've got a helmet with Bluetooth, although I don't do that. So yeah, I just think that massive fitness, not just muscles in the gym, but also cardiovascular fitness, and cycling, in my opinion, is a great way of achieving that. And, not using a car, but using a bicycle is, I think, a really, really great tip if you can do that.
And kind of one layer deeper than that, the idea of being physically fit and that being a kind of key to getting more things done and being more productive is, first and foremost, the fact that you put in the work. You can put in the work for other things that are non-physical. And then the secondary benefit is if your body is functioning properly, it allows you to be more effective and more efficient at all of the other things that you're doing. You said, oxygen's flowing, I'm buzzing with ideas. So that's a pretty unique answer. I like it. And for those of you who have not seen Stephen, this is an audio podcast, but did you say you were 57?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't look anywhere near the ability to be my dad, but that's amazing, man. Like definitely don't look anything 57.
How old are you, Josh?
42. So you would have been a young dad.
A young dad, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So and so I'm curious though, one of the things that you really like talking about is growing businesses,
Sure.
investing in businesses. And so you had one giant success and you had one giant flop.
Sure.
And I'm curious to hear a little bit of the in between. Like, what were the keys to the success of your fashion company, and what were the keys to the flop of your furniture company?
Well, the fashion company was constantly evolving. So it was over a 30-year period. At the beginning, we were manufacturing items in the UK. Gradually, we switched to offshoring, in South Asia and the Far East. Over time, we developed our own brands. We also were selling larger volumes of stuff. As retail changed and became much more multiple orientated, we picked up loads of international business of large stores, which kind of didn't really exist when I started. And then ultimately, of course, there came the internet, and that was another great opportunity. So, we managed to stay abreast of all of the changes that were happening, the rapid changes that were happening, and probably 5 or 6 step changes during that 30-year period. And with furniture, there was a huge change that happened here in the UK, which I'm sure you all know about there in the United States, where it had 2 major negative impacts on our business, and we just happened to be on the wrong side of both of those. And the issue was this vote around Brexit, when the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. Literally instantaneously in June of 2016, 2 things happened. The first thing that happened was that the value of the pound, our currency, deteriorated against the US dollar, and most of the products we were buying were US dollar. We weren't buying in the United States, but the rest of the world uses dollars as a reserve currency, including China. So suddenly our products got a lot more expensive. So that was inflationary. And then the other thing that happened was that consumer confidence got knocked. And as a consequence, our cost of acquisition of new customers also went through the roof because we were selling direct to consumer. So on the one hand, I don't know, we had a 20% increase in the price of our products to us. And on the other hand, we had a 20% increase in the cost of acquisition. And both those things meant we literally went from making sort of cash returns on a weekly basis to losing money on a weekly basis. And it just became unsustainable. I got into a negative spiral really quickly. And then the whole thing just sort of collapsed around me, and it was just a huge learning experience.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm curious though, I mean, if Brexit was like kind of the immediate hammer that shattered the integrity of this structure, what was the lesson to learn? Like, don't do business in the UK, or what was the ultimate lesson you learned from that?
Yeah, I think that whilst I'm not saying don't do business in the UK, I think that probably the lesson that you can learn from that is around diversification. As I mentioned, the success of the fashion business was largely around diversification. So we weren't just doing business in the UK. Our product sourcing was all over the world, and our markets were all over the world too. And we were involved in lots and lots of different product areas. But when we got into this furniture business, we still had diversified supply, but our route to market was kind of a bit a bit one-sided. It was basically direct to consumer. We were using press advertising and online. And yeah, when something just stops working and you don't have any other way through it, and your back's against the wall, it's really difficult to maneuver out of that. So yeah, I think that the lesson to be learned there is you got to keep diversifying and changing, even when there's no immediate requirement to do that, so that when things do get difficult, then you've got other ways to go.
I'm wondering how many times somebody listening to this podcast episode has run into a situation like that, where a third party that was completely independent of you had zero control over, made some decision that negatively impacts your business, and you're left holding the bag, And I'm curious if we could roll back the clock and go back to that moment. You couldn't stop Brexit from being voted for. You're still holding the same bag. If you had the chance to do that again, what different decisions would you make in those situations that maybe could have pulled you out of that differently?
It's funny that we're seeing it now here. I don't know whether you're finding it there in the United States, that online only businesses are struggling for profitability, and that was a huge push to move to close stores, to go online. Stores were a thing of the past, and online was the way forward. Now, even the biggest businesses here online, businesses like ASOS, for example, a fashion business, and Boohoo, are majorly struggling. And the retail businesses that are doing the best are the ones that have a diversified structure of sales. I guess they call it omni-channel. So the ones that have, a few experiential stores, maybe some online, maybe some other partnerships. So I think that, to have some kind of diversified sales channels earlier on would have been a great lesson to learn, rather than just go gung-ho just for one thing and then find, that you bet the wrong horse.
Yeah, it's that theme seems to be recurring here in your message about, well, I think if I had it to do over again, I would have diversified this, and that could have saved it. And that's a really interesting point, because I did notice that, at one point we were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do with shopping malls? Because they're obviously going to be deserted in 10 years. Do we convert them into like homeless shelters? Do we turn them, one mall here in Austin turned into a community college? But what I've kind of noticed is that experiential store, Samsung and Apple both rent a large amount of space, and there's an electronics chain here called Best Buy, and they rent a lot of space in there, and they sell a lot of gear in there, I'm sure. But part of it is you can walk into the store and you can touch this stuff. You can see it. And there's kind of a synergy there. Like maybe you don't buy it there, but maybe you buy something else that Best Buy is offering. And I can certainly see that with Amazon being the great big giant. I refused to order anything on Amazon for years because I didn't want to buy something I couldn't touch. Like I didn't have that confidence, I've kind of got over it a little bit, but the fact that it's all untouchable, I'm kind of like, it kind of stresses me out. I'd rather just go to a store, pick it up. Like, is this the thing I want? Yes. Okay, I'll buy it. No, I'll go to the next place. Especially with furniture, I want to feel that. I want to sit on it. How does it cup my bum?
Yeah,
this stuff's important.
No, you're completely correct. I think that that's the way forward. A mix of, people generally don't buy stuff unless you're desperate for something or you're very confident in it. You generally don't buy stuff the first time that you see it. It requires a number of touches. They say sort of 7, 8, or 9 times. You need to kind of see something, hear something, see something, and eventually it starts to permeate, and then you think, I want that, or I need that, I want that, I feel confident enough to get that. So it's really tough to do that online, and much easier when you've got a myriad of different approaches that you can start to sort of hit consumers and build their confidence up. And we have Samsung store here too, and we've got Apple stores here, and I completely agree. I think they do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, man. So, man, you're a fascinating guy. You've been through a lot of stuff. I'd love to get into, I know you've written some books. I know you started a new business lately, and I want to talk about that. But before we do that, I have to compliment that really shiny cranium that you have there. And I want to crack it open, see how your brain works, get into the Do Zone diagnostic. How you feel?
That sounds dangerous.
So just five quick rapid fire questions. Just the first thing that comes to mind here, Stephen, what is one thing you do that keeps you focused on your goals?
The one thing I do that keeps me focused on my goals is I literally achieve my goals. I mean, I mentioned earlier, for example, I've got a goal that I have to cycle 100 miles in a week, and that week finishes on Sunday night. And I can tell you, on Sunday this week, we got home and I'd been out, and I'd only done 91 miles. So I said to my wife, I need to go out. She said, what are you doing? I said, well, I've got to go out and do 10 miles. You don't understand. I literally have to do it. So I have a manic obsession with completing those goals. I literally don't not complete goals. So yeah, obsession, I guess.
I like it. And how do you get back on track when you lose that focus?
I think that, and I know this is a really crap answer, but I don't really lose the focus. Even if I go on vacation, I don't lose the focus. And in fact, maybe the issue is that I find it too difficult to lose the focus, and I'm always focused. And maybe that's a kind of bad thing. Maybe I could burn out doing that, but I'm 57. I haven't burnt out yet. And I kind of don't, and I kind of love what I do. And I think that maybe that's another big part of it. For example, my ambition is to die at my desk and not retire. So I think that, if you love what you do and you just remain focused on it, it's like your life.
Yeah. Well said. And who is your support group, Stephen, and how do they keep you accountable?
Well, I pay some trainers. So I mentioned the guy in the gym. I pay him. Got a tennis trainer. Pay him. I've got my executive assistant. She holds me accountable, and of course my wife and family. I've got 4 daughters and a wife, and I'm having to account to them all the time. So yeah, I've got the external support network who are on the payroll, and then the internal support network who have social expectation.
Yeah, understood. And so, Stephen, how do you approach a difficult project where you're not sure how to complete it?
It's like eating an elephant, isn't it? You can only chunk it down one piece at a time. And I would say that sometimes when things seem overwhelming, start to do it one piece at a time. We just bought a business actually in property, and it was quite a big challenge, but we gradually did it over a 2 or 3 month period of understanding each part, negotiating, understanding the next part, negotiating, doing the due diligence, and in the end, you get to a position where you've done the work. So yeah, it's slowly.
Got it. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And the last question for you on this, Stephen, what's the number one pro tip you'd give to someone looking to get more stuff done in less time?
Prioritize.
Cool.
Prioritize. Yeah, don't. So my wife struggles with this. She has this thing where she doesn't really understand the difference between urgency and importance. So, things that are important are all urgent, but of course they're not. Just because it's important doesn't mean it's urgent. You got stuff which is unimportant, which is actually quite urgent. So, she says, "Oh, I need to do this now." And I was saying, no, I'm not going to do that now. I'll do that next week, and I schedule it and I get it all done. And I think prioritizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have actually heard that distinction between something that is urgent and something that is important. And they are not necessarily connected all the time. Sometimes they are, but not always. If your neck is bleeding, that is urgent and that is also important, right? There are things that really need to be done right now, but maybe not necessarily important. And there are things that are very important for you to get done that maybe don't need to get done right now. So I certainly agree with
so true.
And so I'm curious to hear about Fuck Up Nights. It's an interesting name for a business. Tell me more.
Okay, so in doing what I'm doing at the moment, it's important for me, firstly, to create a brand for me personally. And it's really difficult to find a point of difference in the whole area of success, because everybody talks about success, right? We're talking about it now. Mostly, not entirely. I know we spoke about the furniture business for a little while, but most of the learning, and most of the entertainment is in failure. It's interesting, like business films like Wolf of Wall Street, for example, is a great study in failure. And as such, it's super entertaining. And I think that, I think most people would rather watch that film than watch a film that was kind of like, how Bill Gates built Microsoft or how Jeff Bezos built Amazon. That's great. And just because we see that, how Jeff brilliantly built Amazon, or Bill brilliantly decided that he was going to get his software into every computer. So what? Where's the learning in that? Where's the learning in that? And where's the entertainment in that?
Whereas the ex-wife that betrayed him,
Yeah, but when you see how somebody really fucked up and they're prepared to share that with you and talk to you about it, I just think that that's like, wow, it's really entertaining. It's a real point of difference, and the learning is enormous. So we're running nights. We're starting in October. Over here, where we're getting people up on stage who are going to kind of free themselves of the weight on their shoulders, which is this story. In business, like in life, most of us carry around like an armor of lies, and we say, yeah, this is great and that's great, but in reality, not everything's great, and it's sometimes really liberating to admit that and say, it's not great. I fucked up. This went wrong. But I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back in a different way. People go, yeah, that's great. And in fact, I must tell you that as an English person, for me, this is a bit of a revelation. As an American, I think maybe less so. I think that
one of the reasons we mess up a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't think you mess up any more than anyone else, but I think you're much more forgiving of the mess ups. And I think that the attitude, for example, of Silicon Valley investors, which is that often they won't back entrepreneurs that haven't messed up because they don't want the first mess up to be on their payroll, is inspired. Whereas over here, if you've messed up or you admit you've messed up, then they go, oh, well, you've got a poor track record. We won't back you. It's kind of like, well, hang on a minute. Everyone messes up. So I think that one of the reasons why the United States does have the biggest, most robust economy in the world is that they have a much more healthy attitude towards failure. I really believe that.
You know, you're speaking my language right now, because I 6 or 7 years ago I started a podcast called How to Lose Money.
I really, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, we did 238 episodes
Yeah.
for over 4 year period. And it was exactly that same idea of, you know, everybody's talking about how they win.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that lesson that you learned from the time you didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I really think you're on to something there, because it is liberating to have somebody just come up and say, well, I thought I had it all figured out, and then I messed this one thing up. I missed this, you know, one line item in this one document, and it cost me $250,000. You know, man, you know, but being able, there's two things that happen there. Number one, the person that's telling that story can, I think you called it earlier, the armor of lies, which
Yeah.
I love that idea that we shield ourselves by making kind of half truths about who we really are. And we all do it. We're all guilty of it, no matter how, you know, centered and focused we are or anything. And then the second thing that happens is somebody who hears that message is going to say, oh, I was going to do that, so now I'm not going to do that. And so you just made the world a little bit of a better place, because you put them in a position to be an educator, a leader, a teacher.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that there are just some great stories out there. You just need to find people at the point that they're ready, where they've accepted it and they're ready to let go of it, because most people are not at that point. And for me, as an investor and somebody who's interested in finding entrepreneurs that are kind of ready to go, it's about positioning myself in a room physically with people who are in that situation, who kind of think, yeah, you know what, I'm truthful, I'm straightforward. Yeah, I fucked up, but I'm ready to go again, and I'm you know, I'm really kind of I'm just full of that, you know. So I just feel that that's going to give me an advantage over other investors who are kind of looking at just looking at success too much.
Yeah. And so tell me, you've written a couple of books. I want to hear about those. What were the inspiration for those books, and what's the main material?
So the first book was called Reboot Your Business. I wrote that in 2018, and it's essentially a handbook that explains, initially through storytelling, through things that have happened to me, how business works and has worked for me, and specifically then how to go and get money, because that's what people need when they start a business, and then some sort of tips, some sort of easy fixes where you can make small incremental improvements to your business. So that's Reboot Your Business. And then the second book, called The Intelligent Investor's Handbook, I wrote last year, and that's business from the perspective of an investor. So how somebody who's looking to deploy capital in a SME, so small business, can basically save from making mistakes and losing money, because that's what most people do when they invest in businesses at that stage. And it's just some tips of how you can achieve that and achieve a decent return for yourself.
Nice. So Reboot Your Business and The Intelligent Investor's Handbook. And where can we get a copy of this?
Well, there's the online store you don't like to shop at, Josh.
I've made my peace. I've made my peace with it. It's fine. It was actually, it's funny. I just bought a house back in March, and there was not, for about a month, there was not a single day that went by that the Amazon guy didn't come. I'm like, it was like Pavlovian, man. Like, you know, like I got the little ding on my phone. I'm like, yay. And then one day he didn't come, you know, and I'm like, oh, that was so sad. So you can get Reboot Your Business and The Intelligent Investor's Handbook by Stephen Sachs. You can find those on Amazon. And Stephen, who would be the ideal person to engage with you and how would they find you?
So we're basically engaging with entrepreneurs that are short of money. So if
So
you're
basically
running
everyone.
yeah, if you'd be surprised actually. Well, no, actually everyone, because if the entrepreneurs that do have money, we're engaging with them as well as potential investors. So
Right.
yeah, entrepreneurs that are short of money, then we've got a kind of strategy with kind of 5 points. We advise and consult on funding strategies. We offer access to free sources of capital, which includes things like tax credits and grant funding, help businesses to raise debt, largely venture debt nowadays, rather than asset-based lending, help businesses to raise capital through the sale of shares to angels, high net worth, VCs, and family offices. And we're heavily involved in mergers and acquisitions. So yeah, on the one hand, we're interested in entrepreneurs that are either scaling up, doing a turnaround, or require a large amount of cash for an acquisition, for example, so for something or the other. And on the other hand, we're engaging with people that have made money and are interested in investing in the sort of small business environment.
Okay. Awesome. And where can they go to connect with you?
Well, they can find me online, or they, maybe on LinkedIn, Stephen Sachs, through reading my books, or through the Funding Nav website, which is at fundingnav.com.
Okay, great. Awesome. So that's, man, I really appreciate you coming on here. It was amazing to hear kind of the dichotomy between a wildly successful business and one that ended up going kind of down the tube because of outside forces, and the amazing lessons that you learned in the middle of that. So I've really enjoyed this, Stephen. Thank you so much for being on here and for being my guest on this episode. Guys, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to find some ways to flush your business with capital, I recommend that you grab a copy of one of Stephen's books, Reboot Your Business, or The Intelligent Investor's Handbook, available on Amazon. And you can also go to fundingnav.com to learn more about how to get funding for your business. We're going to wrap up from here. If you are a busy entrepreneur looking to get to the next level, head over to thedozone.com for productivity tips, tools, and strategies. Also, we'd love it if you could leave a review and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with yours?